Because of its distinctive structural asymmetry, the BV141, a German airframe constructed by Blohm Voss during World War II, is the most remembered aircraft. It had a single engine on the main body, a pilot and observer pod, and a rear gunner position on the starboard side. Originally designed for reconnaissance, the BV141 aimed to provide unmatched view from the pod. Despite Air Ministry resistance, the plane attracted many supporters, notably Luftwaffe Colonel General Ernst Udet, who determined it met mission requirements during testing. The BV141 was up against the Focke Wulf FW189 Uhu and the Arado Ar 198, both of which submitted twin-engine designs. Despite the contest requirement for a single-engine aircraft concept, principal designer Dr. Richard refused to be swayed and preserved with an unconventional prototype. Air Ministry requirements. The German Air Ministry required a single-engine, three-seater aircraft with outstanding vision for short-range reconnaissance and surveillance. Dr. Richard, the head of design, developed an innovative method with Blohm Voss, a Hamburg-based business known for their float planes. Despite offering Arado the contract, the AR-198 was abandoned, and Focke-Wulf got the contract for FW-189 Uhu. Dr. Richard's idea was part of his passion project, but the German government did not ask him or Blohm Voss to join. Despite this, he created a unique asymmetrical design, believing that the only option to accomplish the planned single-engine plane was to develop a light bomber with an asymmetrical shape. Blohm Voss Company. After World War II, Dr. Watt and Blohm Voss planned to move from military flying boats to commercial commerce, with sea aircraft replacing passenger ferries and boat lines. Despite their restricted capacity, the business continued to design and construct commercial aircraft. Richard Focke, a World War I infantryman and aviator, constructed his own aircraft for nearly 10 years before joining Blohm Voss. Dr. Richard was ambitious, focused, and determined, with a distinct vision for the future of aviation. With the outbreak of World War II, aircraft production shifted from wood and canvas biplanes to metal monoplanes. A curved fuselage, an engine in the front of the cockpit, and standardized straight-edge wings were required for design and development. Few engineers attempted to innovate, however, because the cockpits provided limited sight for the crew. The propeller's air-circulated motion forcefully smacked rudders, forcing planes to run contrary to pilots' controls, and the typical engine location required pilots to routinely offset undesirable friction. Despite the fact that symmetrical airframes were the norm, planes did not fly symmetrically. Dr. Richard was looking for a design that might deliver more performance and handling. Asymmetric Design. The Blohm Voss BV141 was one-of-a-kind aircraft with a plexiglass glazed starboard side that provided great visibility comparable to the FW189. The cockpit can accommodate a pilot, observer, and a gunner with a two-man rear artillery. The fuselage on the port side housed the BMW-132 radial engine and extended all the way to the tail unit. The weight distribution appeared to create roll, yet it was equally supported by lift. The initial design included a symmetrical tailplane that was altered asymmetrical for the BV141B, with a starboard tailplane eliminated to enhance the rear gunner's firing view. The early prototype was still conventional in comparison to the final design, with two slender booms somewhat offset towards the port side of the central line and a plexiglass crew close cell. The wings were situated near the front of the aircraft in a classic monoplane arrangement. The tail unit of the plane had a rounded, heavily swept tailplane on a horizontal tailplane to the port side. The initial prototype used a typical radial piston-driven three-bladed propeller arrangement provided by single BMW 801A engine with 1560 horsepower and a top speed of approximately 272 miles per hour. The BV141 had a single tail system with an asymmetrical configuration, dispersing weight and overcoming handling issues that plagued preceding aircrafts. Challenges. During World War II, Blohm Voss was instrumental in the creation of float plane for strategic bombing. To provide more efficient aerodynamics than traditionally placed aircraft, they developed an asymmetrical design that kept the engine in the nose without situating the cockpit above it. This decision demonstrated that an asymmetrical airframe could provide the same level of performance and handling as symmetric versions. Watt thought that the BV-141's design would deceive the adversary into thinking that it was a fighter rather than a bomber. The mission required the interpreted Hurricane aircraft, which was employed by the Allies on the Western Front. However, their enthusiasm caused various flaws to be overlooked until prototypes were fully created. These included persistent drag on the runner and cockpit positioning, which exposed the crew. The expanded wing was prolonged to handle the added weight of machine guns and crew in order to maintain balance. Initial testing. 3 prototypes were completed for testing with a batch of 5 version A evaluated. Colonel General Ernst Udet of the German Luftwaffe supported the production. The aircraft, however, underperformed but showed potential as a reconnaissance plane. Germany requested 500 BV-141s in 1939. But after seeing 12 prototypes, the German government determined that the distinctive design could not be replicated effectively as a more convenient aircraft. Instead, they depended on their large supply of FW-189s, which performed well. The 12 confirmed production planes had more powerful and spectacular BMW 801 engines, which may have contributed to the plane's termination. The BV-141's fate was decided when an Allied bombing strike in Bremen destroyed the Focke wulf facility, which was producing the FW-200 Condor, a heavy bomber built for Hitler's personal transport. Blohm Voss couldn't do anything since the Condor had taken over a large portion of their production capability. Legacy and surviving planes. Soldiers discovered the wreckage of the multiple BV-141 airplanes as the Allies advanced into Germany. One was recovered by the British soldiers and returned to England for inspection. Another BV-141 may have been secured for testing by the US Air Force's Air Materiel Command. According to German sources, 20 BV-141Bs were built. However, none of the aircraft or its 38 intended variants were ever used in battle. The initial idea to send as many as possible for reconnaissance never came to fruition. Unfortunately, not a single frame of BV-141 survived. Dr. Richard Focke was sent to the United States as a part of Operation Paperclip, where he pursued his interest in unusual aircraft design. Before joining Boeing as a civilian consultant, he worked on concepts for nuclear-powered bombers.